So we all know that when multiplying with negatives, we can say that a positive and a negative equals a negative and a positive equals a negative and a negative equals a positive, and a positive equals a positive. Okay? Dividing with negatives is the exact same thing. We know that a negative and a positive is a negative, a positive and a negative is a negative and a negative is a positive, and a positive is a positive. Okay, but let's understand why that is, instead of just memorizing a rule. So let's do this. I have positive 6, so I'm going to say positive, 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 and positive. That represents 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, those 6 positive signs, right? Okay. Let's say I wanted to divide them up into 2 piles. So I would divide them up into 2 even piles. How much is in each pile? Well, that's 3 in each pile. So that would look like this, though. I would say 6 is what I started with. I divided them into 2 piles. That leaves me with 3 in each pile, right? Okay, let's try it another way, though. Let's keep that original 6, and instead of dividing up into 2 piles, let's divide it up so that I have 2 in each pile. Now, how many piles will that be? So to have 2 in each pile, I would put 2 there, 2 there, and 2 there. That's a total of how many piles? 3. If I looked at it that way, I'd say 6 divided by what, so that there were 2 in each pile. Well, that's 6 divided by 3 is 2, right? Okay, so this is with positives. Now let's move on to doing it with negatives, and it might help us make some sense of it. Now let's say I had negative 6. So I have 6 negative signs, right? Okay. Still the same idea as before, just instead of being positive, now they're negative. But let's say I wanted to divide them up into 2 piles. Okay? 1 pile, 2 piles. I have now divided them up into 2 piles. So I took those negative 6 digits, right? My 6 negatives. I divided them into 2 piles. What's in each pile? You should say there's negative 3 in each pile, right? There are 3 negatives, right? 1, 2, 3 is 3 negatives, negative 3. That's taking negative 6, dividing it into 2 piles. What's in each pile is a negative 3 in each pile, right? Now let's keep that original negative 6. So we have our negative 6, okay? Now what I'm going to do is I want to divide it up so that I have negative 2 in each pile. So if I have negative 2 in each pile, that's like saying, here's a negative 2, here's a negative 2, here's a negative 2. How many is that? Well, if I divide it up so that there is a negative 2 in each pile, there are 3 piles, right? If I said, let me repeat, if I had my negative 6 and I divide it up so there's negative 2 in each pile, I have a total of 3 piles. This kind of illustrates that a negative divided by a positive is a negative, as well as a negative divided by a negative is a positive. Let's do just a little bit of practice. Let's say I had 9 negatives, so that's negative 9, right? Okay. Now I want to divide negative 9 up into 3 piles. Okay, so I will divide it into 3 even piles. Dividing it into 3 piles, how many are in each pile? Well, you should say that there are negative 3 in each pile. Awesome. Now let's say it another way, and let's say there are negative 9, and I'm going to divide it up so that there are negative 3 in each pile. So I would divide up so there are negative 3 in each pile. Well, how many piles is that? 3. Good job.